Hello, and welcome to our Hammer Throw Paladin build guide video. Hammer Throw is one of the signature Sentinel skills. At its core, it's a fairly simple attack that causes you to throw your weapon at your enemies. However, it has many customization options available through the skill tree which can greatly alter your gameplay style. To make your hammers deal the most damage, it is best to specialize in Enra's technique, which will disable all other trajectory modifiers and grant massive amounts of damage and critical strike modifiers. It will also enable you to pick up one of the best notables in the game, which allow you to use this skill even if you don't have any mana. All your other skills are used to boost your hammer as much as possible. The most notable one is the Volatile Reversal, which applies powerful debuff on enemies and allows you to instantly recover health after taking a significant amount of damage if used correctly. Sentinel is also an inherently tanky class, thanks to many passives that boost your armor, block chance, health, and resistances, which make your gearing much easier. It also has plenty of bonuses to throw attacks, so you are never left at mercy of finding good items to enjoy the game. This build has great area of effect coverage thanks to the hammers flying everywhere. You will constantly kill enemies even before noticing them. It is very durable thanks to the passive mitigation through the armor and block. Staying in long range is also very beneficial in that regard. If you run out of mana, your skills become completely free to use, so you don't ever have to worry about your resources. Another advantage is that it requires absolutely no gear to begin, making it one of the best starter builds in the game. The single target damage is quite lacking, so the boss fights can be a bit drawn out. With this build you should prioritize speed farming echoes instead of taking down hard bosses. As a throw attack, it has limited sources of life recovery. To get consistent life leech you will need a specific unique item or timeline blessing. There are two unique items that are useful for this build in their specific way, one to improve your early game, and one meant as an endgame upgrade. They are not required for the build functionality at all. The last Bear's Scorn is quite good defensive unique that boosts your endurance and health regeneration. It can be used to get damage leached as health modifier in the early game, or if you can't get it on your blessing yet. It can be equipped as soon as you get level 27. Lyraka's Claws grant you an enormous amount of critical strike multiplier for throwing attacks, but it is worth using them only if you manage to get one with good legendary potential modifiers, as critical multiplier alone is not worth it. To improve your damage you should look for items that add or increase your throwing damage, attack speed, and critical strike chance or multiplier. Throw attacks are obviously not affected by melee modifiers, but global physical and critical bonuses do affect them. This makes the Obsidian Dagger one of the best bases for your weapon as it has the best bonus critical strike chance but also increases your global physical damage. However, any weapon with bonus critical strike is good enough. Adding flat throwing damage on other gear pieces is very important for your overall scaling. Additional hammer throw levels found on your relic is also a powerful modifier that allows you to get 30% more damage on the skill tree. Defensively, you should get health on every piece where it is possible. Good item bases and blessing will be a great help to cap your resistances and crit avoidance. Your large Raya idols can grant you a lot of critical strike multiplier for throw attack, ideally with the armor shred chance as well. On the small Ligonian idols look mostly for armor and health, but any small and medium ones with resistances and health can be quite useful too. You should limit the points spent in the Sentinel skill tree to the bare minimum, just enough to unlock more powerful options. The most important one is the Armor Clad, which reduces the damage you take from nearby enemies. The 1 point invested in the Stalwart grants you a 3% block chance and does not scale further with investments. You will spend most of your points in the Paladin skill tree. The Honor grants you a 2% block chance with minimal investments, while Conviction and Valor provide lots of health and physical penetration. The Faith Armor is a great source of critical strike avoidance, but the best defensive notable here is the Reverence of Duality, which grants you tons of useful stats such as increased health and damage. On the other hand, the Holy Precision is the best offensive notable as it grants insane amounts of critical strike for your throw skills. You will want to spend at least 5 points in the Void Knight tree rather quickly just to unlock the Volatile Reversal skill. The Abyssal Endurance is the best notable available here, as it grants you some decent health and resistance bonuses. The Forge Guard tree is a very efficient way to scale your damage. The Weapon Master is a good place to spend some leftover points to increase your damage and unlock more powerful notables, such as Siege Captain, which grants you flat damage for throw attacks, or Hammer and Anvil, which makes you deal and take more damage. The Steel Aegis grants a bit of block chance for just 1 point spent there. Hammer Throw is one of the first skills you unlock as a Sentinel. Just as the name suggests, with this skill you will throw a hammer at your opponents. The Enra's technique is the key to scaling its damage, as it grants enormous damage and critical modifiers for each trajectory modifier applied to hammers, such as the Iron Spiral or Hammer Vortex. The Mana-Starved Forging nullifies the mana cost once you run out of mana, allowing you to spam this skill effortlessly. Catapult and Avatar of the Spire are used to improve the area of effect coverage, while Zealot's Conviction and Weighted Hammers are used simply to increase the damage you deal. Volatile Reversal is a very important skill both offensively and defensively. It applies a powerful debuff on enemies it hits, and takes you back in time, reversing any damage you took in the past 2 seconds. You will need the Harbinger of Dust notable to apply the debuff, which increases the damage taken by enemies by 30%. The Warp Time and Catching Up grant you very useful attack and movement speed bonuses after you use this skill. Lastly, Time Lost Wisdom significantly reduces the cooldown of this skill but disables the mana restoration, which is quite irrelevant for this build anyway. Smite is usually a damaging spell, but in our case, it is a movement skill instead. It can be used only on enemies but comes with very useful utility options. The Descent is the most important notable here, which turns this skill into a movement one. Traveling through the Righteous Flurry will grant you bonus attack speed every time you use this spell, while Blinding Flash grants a high chance to blind enemies. The Desperate Measures is also very important as it allows you to use this skill even when you are out of mana. Sigils of Hope is one of the set and forget skills that grant you bonus healing and damage. You can automate casting, and thanks to the instant cast you will use them as soon as your mana regenerates enough. The Exigency is the notable responsible for the instant casting of this skill. The Empowering Sigils will grant you significant bonus damage, and Tetragram increases the maximum sigil limit and thus the bonuses they grant. The Faith will consume your sigils to heal you if you take too much damage at once. Holy Aura is another passive skill used just for the buffs it grants. You can activate it to get increased stats for a short duration, but most of the time you will be out of mana to use it. Shelter from the Storm grants you elemental resistances and endurance, which makes the gearing process much easier. The Expedite grants you a chance to gain haste on hit as well as some attack speed bonus. The remaining passives are quite simple stat boosts. You can spec into True Strike and Extreme Zeal if you prefer critical strikes over attack speed or damage. The Black Sun Timeline bonus is a tough decision between throwing Damage Leech or Critical Strike Chance and Multiplier. All those stats are very useful, so pick one that suits you best. In the Age of Winter you can get many great defensive blessings, such as increased armor, physical resistance, or block effectiveness. The Physical Resistance Shred is useful but already covered by your passive tree. The Spirits of Fire Timeline can get you a very useful endurance bonus, but fire resistances are also okay if you can't get them on your gear otherwise. At the Reign of Dragons timeline you should pick up a blessing that grants you resistances or critical strike avoidance, depending on what you lack the most. The physical damage bonus is also useful, but not as impactful. The Ending the Storm has only one blessing worth picking up. The Massive Lightning Resistances bonus will make your gearing much easier. This concludes today's video. We hoped you enjoyed watching it. If so, please leave a like or subscribe, and see you in the next video.